Hi, Evelyn. How you doing? Okay, I've got your work up here. Here's your written rationale. Thank you so much for including your written rationale. It just makes so much sense to do so. I don't know if you looked at my response um, to Amy's work before yours, but she also submitted a little written rationale, and it just makes things so much easier and just so much more streamlined in order enabling us to take a look at the work and really see your intentions and your objectives behind your design decision. So thank you very much, and keep in mind this is something that would be considered a regular standard practice once you get out of school and you're practicing design in a studio or an agency. Quite often your art director will want to intermittently check up on your work, but that's not saying that your art director knows exactly, there's going to be an art director that has 15, 20 designers underneath him or her. And each time that art director is looking at the progression of the individual design work, it would be feasible to apprise that art director of the project background, et cetera, et cetera. Just brief synopsis like this is just fine. So this is great. Thank you so much. Okay, enough of that. Let's get to the work. You've done a great job encoding this with meaning. I think it's fantastic. I really think you thought this out well. And the word encryption, and it works. It just totally works. I get it, and I think the viewer will get it too. That said, I do want to make a couple of suggestions. Let's take a look at this. And I did this again. I don't know if you looked at Amy's critique video that I had created. But one of the things I really do, and I really want you guys to do this too in your design work, is really get to accustomed to looking at it at different sizes. And you can really tell a lot when you get in really close and, okay, really close and really far away. So you're mimicking this phenomenon of looking at the logo up front, very close, and at a distance. So as we can see at a distance, the blocks definitely break down, and they're not visible at small sizes. And that's no surprise, because the reason being is that the blocks that make up the word mark are individual letters of the word mark are really, really tiny. So I don't know if you designed this typeface yourself or if this is a pre-existing typeface, but I think it's a little bit too busy. Now, there's a couple of things that we can do to combat that. And one of the things I think is, and if you saw what happened when I got in really close, whoops, didn't want to do that. Wanted to do this. See, there's a lot going on here. There really is a lot going on. And I think one of the major problems is the fact that you've duplicated it, the logo, and placed it behind and then screened it back. I think that's a mistake, and the reason being is because this is not full opacity, so it's also transparent. Either that or this isn't actually behind, it's in front of. So it's hard to say the way that you've got this set up, but either way, I think it's too much with that second iteration or that second copy of the logo offset. I would definitely remove that. Another thing I would suggest doing is try, boy, I'm going to suggest you only use one color on this logo, because the one thing that's happening is that you're introducing different meanings with different colors. For example, security is the color blue indicates security as one of its encrypted, its encoded meanings. Network green is typically indicative of prosperity, and security, that red typically indicates danger. So that, I think, is sending some mixed signals. For that reason, I would recommend that you consider using just one color for your logo. I would go with the blue. Another suggestion would be this. So far we have removing the background and sticking with one color. Another thing that I might consider is this. When I go back to Amy's logo, and I want to show you something here, because this is a very successful logo. The first iteration wasn't. Now, she'd made some changes, but the one thing I want you to look at is take a look at the complexity of the typeface that she used for the word Guardian. Now let's back off on that, and we can see that it holds its integrity at a distance, at small sizes. But would this work? Can we say the same thing if the word network were also presented at the same size and the word security were presented at the same size, I don't think this logo would hold its integrity the same way it does. Okay, so in other words, I think this was a smart solution. I'm wondering if you can't start working towards that same type of eliminating so much visual, so many visual elements working at the same time. There's a couple of different ways you can do that. I mean, you could use the word Guardian in that blocked letter typeface, and you could try to create a badge around that. So in other words, Guardian, network, security. Or you could simply change the typeface and use the typeface underneath, or somehow assemble that accordingly. The main thing I want to get to is that this is just too busy. It works. It definitely works. Don't get me wrong. You've encrypted. I mean, excuse me 1 second. Sorry about that. So you've successfully encoded meaning into this, and that's fantastic. But I just think it's just too much visual competition in the logo itself. So I think that you should continue working on this. You're well on your way to success. As a matter of fact, like I said, you've encoded meaning beautifully into the work. I just think visually it's a little bit too complex. So let's work on simplifying things a little bit, both color and typeface. Now I want to show you something. I just did this. I'm going to go over here. I'm just going to go to Acrobat, and I want to I'm going to go to Safari. I'm going to open a new window. And I'm just going to do this really quick. I want to show you something. Actually, it's still here. Look, tech fonts. And what I did is I just took a look at tech fonts, and I went to image search. And there's a lot of really neat tech fonts that will work, that I think will encode the same type of meaning. So if you want to go through that, take a look at some of those. There was one down here that I thought was this is really interesting. I think it's got that drop shadow and too many effects on it, but basically it's doing the same thing. It's giving that kind of block, kind of encoded encryption type feeling to the words, but without being quite so busy that when we get to smaller sizes, it falls apart. Do you see what I'm saying? So go through and try to take a look at some of these tech fonts, and that's just a suggestion. Here's another more simple, and that's called 2Tech, and looks like it's from dailyfreefonts.com, and that one might be a little more simplified. So again, just keep working out. Keep working out. I mean, you're well on your way. I think you've done a fantastic job encoding meaning, but right now visually we need to kind of dial it back a little bit so it's not quite so complex in this kind of competition with itself. All right, great job. Any questions, comments, concerns whatsoever, please let me know. Thanks.